There's a lot of idiots around here claiming that I'm a terrorist, which is quite interesting, really. I have described myself as a psychological terrorist before, but that's really tongue in cheek. Indeed, it's all quite interesting indeed. Who would I be a terrorist for? Supposedly, I'm a terrorist of Russian heritage. It's all very interesting indeed. The defense intelligence operating out of almost a military base, who are themselves Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives and Satanists, are basically attempting to portray me as a Russian in the public eye. It's all very interesting to consider the fact that defense intelligence, i.e., the military intelligence capacity, is one of the driving forces behind a potential future conflict with Russia that the military in Britain are attempting to instigate. Indeed, the potential conflict with Russia is purely a military network operation. So it's a synthesis of the military intelligence capacity, i.e., defense intelligence, and the defense industry itself. Indeed, the defense industry wants to profit from a possible conflict. And as I've stated, the military intelligence capacity of Britain is coordinated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, and the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst have interest in a potential conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation. Indeed, the driving forces calling for a conflict within the Russian Federation are also themselves Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives, mainly within the GRU. And as I've stated before, the GRU is majority percentage coordinated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, which is basically why there are so many Nazi savages within the GRU. And we have networks interconnecting with that, such as the Russian Imperial Movement, who are Vlasovites. So it's all very interesting to notice that the potential hot war that could occur between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation that would first involve the deployment of British military troops to Ukraine is all being instigated and coordinated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, just as a lot of the scenarios that occurred in the Cold War were coordinated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. So it's all very interesting. And the British police are on board with the military intelligence program and the defense industry program in terms of the escalation of a conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation, because the British police are afraid that there could be a repeat of the exposure of Device's police, and the British police want to protect their paedophile and criminal empires. So they will do this by distracting the population with an international conflict, i.e., a conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation. Indeed, the chaos that shall ensue will also allow for the British police to be able to erect their police state, which is a key dream of the British police and goes along with the Illuminati agenda that the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst are pushing. And when I reference Illuminati in this context, I am referring directly to the Bavarian Illuminati of 1776, who are now a key core component of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, it's rather interesting at the moment for me because I'm being traced, tracked, harassed, monitored, surveilled, and targeted by several agencies here in Warminster, the most prominent of them being Defence Intelligence. Indeed, they're putting information out to the townspeople about me being a Russian, which is all very interesting because at certain times during my time here in this town, I have spun out into the GRU Russian military intelligence psychosis, which over the years has been implanted in me by networks of British intelligence operatives coordinated by the United Grand Lodge of England's Master Mason, Samuel Buchan. Indeed, this is all part of a long-range agenda by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst connected British operatives who wish to cast me as a Russian and basically patsy me as part of an exchange program where I will be exchanged for several British spies, and with this the British police will be able to simply cast my exposures of Devices Police as Russian propaganda, basically state that I was a Russian disinformation agent spreading lies about the British police, which is not actually the case. I am telling the whole truth about the British police. However, the British intelligence capacity, especially the military intelligence capacity, wish to basically use me as a patsy and are basically now surveilling me in my every movement. I'm also being monitored by satellites coordinated by British intelligence. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that I am now in a certain situation. Indeed, I haven't helped myself over the years by falling to the British intelligence United Grand Lodge of England deception that they were implanting me with that I was a Russian agent. Indeed, due to my psychosis, I have spun out into a GRU Russian military intelligence psychosis state of mind several times. And at several points over the last few years, I have believed I was operating for the GRU, which isn't actually the case. I'm merely a schizophrenic man with amnesia. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that defense intelligence, i.e. the military intelligence capacity of Britain, and the MI6, i.e. the Secret Intelligence Service, and the intelligence branches of the British police would set up a paranoid schizophrenic guy in this fashion. Indeed, it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the GRU seems to be very confused as to what is going on here in Wiltshire. It's very interesting to consider. Indeed, as I stated, the majority of the GRU is itself controlled by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives. But I don't believe the entire network is coordinated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, which is the difference between the GRU and the British military intelligence services, i.e. the Defence Intelligence Network, which is almost entirely in the hands of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, what with mass penetrations of the entire British intelligence structure occurring since the 1940s. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that British intelligence is now more or less absolutely controlled by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives, especially within MI6 and defense intelligence, i.e. the British military intelligence capacity. So it's interesting to note that all of the individuals pushing for a future conflict scenario between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation are themselves Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives foremost. Indeed, we have to consider the possibility of triple agents also, i.e. British intelligence operatives seemingly on the surface, who are actually operating for the GRU, but their ultimate loyalty is to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, it's interesting how the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst play off the dialectic between the West and the Russian Federation, and are able to utilize triple agents who are operating for one agency, whether that be Western or Soviet, and they are themselves suspected of being aligned with the opposite bloc, i.e. the West or Soviet, respectively, and their ultimate loyalty is to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst are basically running the world, which is very interesting to consider. Indeed, this is the Bavarian Illuminati Continuum Network, operating through satanic cults and the intelligence services of sovereign nation states. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, the majority of corporations around the world are dominated by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives. Indeed, the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst have basically penetrated the intelligence branches of all major and minor corporations and basically installed their own operatives within those networks. So this is all part of a technocratic endgame, whereby the society will be run by artificial intelligence capacity and basically networks of scientists and engineers will control the government, which is all very Wellesian. Indeed, this shows that there is a synthesis between British intelligence, eugenicist ideas that basically emerged in the early 20th century, and the overarching agenda of the Illuminist Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, it seems that these interests have merged over the course of the 20th century, with the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst gaining the ascendancy over British intelligence and the United States intelligence capacity, as well as making serious penetrations of the Soviet and later Russian Federation intelligence capacities. So it's all very interesting indeed. The Soviet, i.e. now the Russian Federation intelligence branches, seem to be a little less controlled by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst than the Western intelligence services. So it's all very interesting to consider. However, there is still majority percentage control over certain Soviet agencies by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, especially the GIU. Indeed, it's interesting to note, as I stated before, that the Mossad didn't hunt Nazis. This is because the Mossad is a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst continuum intelligence branch and is dominated by Germanophile networks of political Zionists and Sabbateans, who are themselves beholden to British and German interests. And by being beholden to British interests means being beholden these days to Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst interests. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, as I stated, the Mossad didn't hunt Nazis. The only real agency that hunted Nazis was the Yugoslav intelligence services, who killed thousands of Nazis and Nazi collaborators from the Yugoslav countries such as Ustasha and Nazi-aligned Chetnik factions, etc. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, the KGB wanted to be involved in more Nazi hunting operations, but were themselves being infiltrated and penetrated by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst very soon after the Second World War, and therefore were unable to hunt down Nazis who had committed atrocities and Nazi collaborators from the Soviet Union nations. It's interesting to note that the majority of Nazi collaborators from the nations of the Soviet Union ended up within the Western intelligence framework and interconnecting Galen organization, therefore Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst network. So it's interesting to note. And I've spoken many times of the figure of the current Director General of MI6, Blaise Metravelli, and that she is the granddaughter of a Ukrainian Nazi collaborator known as the Butcher. So it's all very interesting to note she is also an operative of the Bilderberg Group, therefore is an NW7 IG Farben intelligence operative, which directly interlinks us back to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. And this woman, who is a blatant Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operative, is running the Secret Intelligence Service, i.e. MI6, the foreign intelligence capacity of the British intelligence services. So it's all very interesting to note that the Nazis are in our midst, basically. Indeed, this is a topic which is very important to me, because for several years during my 20s, I was under mind control programming by Nazi specialists operating through MI6, but were actually Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives, and these networks were programming me with Nazi fetishist ideology, causing me to act out in a certain fashion whereby I was touting Nazi ideology and Nazi theories, which were actually inimical to my character. So it's all very interesting. This is a very interesting topic for me to broach because of my own life story, whereby I was being programmed through Wizard of Oz programming into a Nazi fetishist agenda. So it's all very interesting to know. Indeed, as I've stated before, the British police run 764, which is a branch of the Order of Nine Angles, who are a key Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst construct. But the specific ritual child abuse ring 764 in the United States and Britain is operated by the British police. So it's all very interesting to consider that the British police are running these serial child abuse networks and are running them in accordance with the operations of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, these are often profit-making schemes, though it seems that a lot of the ritual child abuse is simply due to the sadism of British police operatives in accordance with Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst techniques. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that the British police are running these networks of satanic child molesters. And as I stated, one of the key reasons that the British police are supporting a hot war between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation is due to the fact that they do not want their involvement in ritual child abuse and child sacrifice rings being revealed to the public. And therefore, they are seeking a conflict that will take the public's attention away from the activities of the British police. So it's all very interesting to consider what the British police are doing, really. And I've explained this in several videos about the British police. The British police run much of the global child trafficking syndicates and also have key interest in the organ harvesting and organ trafficking trade. Indeed, as I've stated before, the Albanian mafia are a pet project of the British police and are basically hired proxies for British police criminal syndicate interests. So it's all very interesting to know a lot of this activity occurring between the British police and the Albanian mafia is overseen by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. So the overall intelligence agency running all these operations is an extraterritorial black operations shadow agency, and that is the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, which controls percentages of the intelligence services of the Russian Federation also, as well as basically having a monopoly on Anglo-American intelligence capacities and French intelligence capacities. So it's all very interesting to note just how penetrated British, American, French, and Russian intelligence services are by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. So the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, as I've stated, is an extraterritorial black operations shadow agency and is decentralized, and there's no guarantee that the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst even has a central headquarters, though they seem to have several headquarters in South America and Germany itself. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Bundesnachrichtendienst, i.e. the German Federal Intelligence Service, is almost entirely controlled by the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, though many Bundesnachrichtendienst intelligence operatives don't even know of the existence of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. So it's all very interesting how compartmentalized all the intelligence services are. And as I stated, the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst is only rumored to exist within the lower levels of the British intelligence capacity. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, it's really quite scary, the overarching influence and power of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst network. Indeed, I've never encountered an intelligence network quite like the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. Indeed, this is on another level and is very, very difficult to analyze. Indeed, I need to really look through texts detailing the Bavarian Illuminati of the 1700s to be able to trace the network from the mid to late 1700s to the modern day. As I stated, the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst incorporates many German secret orders and has basically infiltrated and penetrated British Freemasonry to the point of complete takeover. So it's all very interesting indeed. This is not to absolve the British Freemasons at all, because even before the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst takeover, they were nefarious in their operations. However, things have stepped up a little bit in terms of the satanic nature and the ritual sacrifice nature of the British Freemasonic networks as the German Masonic body, i.e. the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, took over the British lodges. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the GRU networks that infiltrated the British Masonic lodges in the 50s were themselves triple agents operating simultaneously for British, Soviet, and Nazi intelligence continuums. So it's all very interesting to note the existence of these triple agents. Indeed, the infiltration by the GRU of British Masonic lodges was itself carried out by MI5 operatives of British heritage who were themselves working for the GRU, but their ultimate loyalty was to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst. So it's all very interesting to consider the existence of these triple agents. And I'm sure we will see activities of many of these triple agents occurring with the potential conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation now building up due to the interests of the defense intelligence, i.e. the British military intelligence capacity Satanists, who are themselves beholden to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, if not outright Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives, and the defense industry itself, which is coordinated on the top level by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operatives also. So it's all very interesting to consider anyway. I'm going to leave it there.